this and that. I mean, I'm intending to start promoting at realtor events, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm still a realtor, and there was a period in my career where I was a top producing realtor, right? In Phoenix, I think in my best year I was number 38 out of 45,000 realtors.
Nice.
So I still have a history, right, on the realtor side. So something that we were working on is doing realtor events where we talk about how do you find motivated sellers and then how do you close them.
So is that something you do after the podcast? Do you say, hey, if there's any more people that you think would be good for the podcast, we'd love to have them on? Or how did that work?
No, it was just me asking for help, just reaching them directly. Hey, I want to get this person on a show. Can you help me? It's the trust triangle, right? Are you familiar with the trust triangle?
No.
All right. So let's say I want to connect with Pace Morby. Well, Jonah is a sub 2 member, right? I'm calling Pace, I'm DMing Pace, whatever. He's not answering the phone. And I say, hey, Jonah, it looks to me you're connected to Pace. Would you mind introducing us to each other? Yeah, Steve, I got you, no problem. And you connect us. Now what we got? We got a trust triangle, right? He doesn't know me from Adam. He's not going to respond to me. Jonah puts in a good word. Pace. I know this Steve guy. He's someone that I think you guys can help each other. You guys need to get to know each other. Now we got a trust triangle. Now we can connect.
I love that. That's such a good idea. I feel like I'm missing though. I haven't been doing enough asking people that I know in the industry, being like, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. Can you introduce me to them? Right. I don't know. I haven't thought, I think I had some mindset limitations there on, being asking for more, I guess. They already went on my
Yeah.
podcast. Should I really ask more from these guys? They already
Yes.
gave up an hour. And the
Yes.
answer is yes. Ask them for more. Screw it. I like
Yes.
that.
Look, Ben Franklin talked about it. The best way for people to learn more is asking for favors. It's crazy, right? I don't know how that
It's
makes
true.
sense, but that's reality.
Hmm.
So yes, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. All right, I'm gonna start doing that. You're gonna be the first one. I'm gonna be all right, who's Steve know?
Yeah, that's fine.
Hit him up. I love it. So talk a little bit about how social media changed your life. I mean, even for me, I'm way smaller than you, but it has changed my life
Mm-hmm.
significantly, my business significantly. People see me as an authority, right? People invite me to events to speak. I get deals from it. I get private money from it. Talk about, I mean, at your level, how does it affect your business, your life, and all of that?
It just brings credibility and authority. I have opportunities available because of my reach and my influence. So I talk about these opportunities that come along. It's hard to say no to all these opportunities, but they come along because of our influence. Now, am I doing a lot of deals on social media? I'm not really doing a lot of deals on social media. We've done a really lousy job of getting that. But I mean, a lot of people, influencers, don't talk about this, right? We get affiliate offers all the time. Hey, will you promote this? Hey, will you promote that? And I won't promote it if I'm not using it, which, for better or for worse. I turn down hundreds of thousands of dollars from PropStream, apparently. But if I don't use it, I won't promote it. But I have people that, hey, I've got this program. I think you might like it. Can you check it out? I'll check it out. If I like it, then I'll promote it. If I don't like it, I'm not going to promote it. So affiliate opportunities. It's crazy. Business opportunities. What else is there? I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing there, right? I mean, we get really healthy affiliate checks, but they're affiliate checks from people we use, people we. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing we get from social media.
Makes sense. Why don't I feel like you're missing hundreds of thousands of dollars by not capitalizing on JV opportunities? If I have anything to offer to you,
Mm.
I would say I get so much money just from people sending me deals in my markets, and then me being, oh, I can wholesale that and then
Hmm.
make a good 10K, 20K. Why haven't you capitalized on that? Any
So,
reason?
yeah, two reasons. First, I'm in Phoenix, so I got to compete against Jamil for time, pace, and all these other guys, right? Which it is what it is. And two, we've never gotten it dialed in. And that's probably my fault for not getting it dialed in. But, whenever we've posted, hey, send me your deals, we become a nationwide JV person. And being a nationwide JV person, we never got nationwide comping down or nationwide dispo down. But
Yeah.
that's probably more of a function of poor leadership on my part and lack of intentionality than any specific challenges.
Nationwide is hard. I definitely agree with that. I mean, to do that, you have to create a whole operation, and that would be creating a huge micro flipping operation. But it would be
Mhm.
interesting. I think you could get some deals in Phoenix, even just the ones where you're like, I just know this the stuff and just send me deals in Phoenix. If you threw that up on Real Estate Disruptors, I think there's a good 50K check waiting for you in your email right
Well,
after that.
going back to influence and this and that, I mean, I'm intending to start promoting at realtor events, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm still a realtor, and there was a period in my career where I was a top producing realtor, right? In Phoenix, I think my best year I was number 38 out of 45,000 realtors.
Nice.
So I still have a history, right, on the realtor side. So something that we were working on is doing realtor events where we talk about how do you find motivated sellers and then how do you close them. And as I'm doing this, right, we're going to get a bunch of realtors raising their hands. Hey, I want to learn about how to find motivated sellers. Now I'm going to say, oh, by the way, if you guys have any deals where you don't think it makes sense going on MLS, send them to me. So I'm going to be fishing in the realtor pond in the not too distant future.
I like it. So, what are your goals? What are you deciding to focus on? We started this conversation talking
Mm-hmm.
about focus, and like
Mm-hmm.
you're like, no, I'm focusing on what I'm focusing on. But I didn't actually ask you, what are you focusing on? What are the things you really want to achieve right now that you think is the best use of your time?
We want to be the preeminent source for sales. So whether you need help in sales, whether you need help in hiring salespeople, holding salespeople accountable, anything related to sales challenges and sales problems, that's who we want to be. We want to think, hey, we got our marketing going, we got our operations going, but we're getting stuck in sales. I want to be the source for that, right? So whether it's, again, you're a solo operator, you need to get better at sales, or maybe you've got a couple of acquisition people that aren't getting it, think of us. If you're looking to scale and you want to start bringing in more salespeople, think of us. So what I want to be known for, what I want to be, on top of mind is I've got sales challenges. Well, go to salesdisruptors.com. Steve can help you with all your sales challenges.
I love it. So that's what you're really focusing on. It's not wholesaling. It's nothing to do with realtors, nothing to do with flipping, nothing to do with rentals. Are you still doing that stuff? Or are we let's just focus all on sales? Have we shut down wholesaling? Have we shut down flipping?
No,
Or are we doing
we're
that on the
still
side?
wholesaling.
Or
We don't flip. I hate flipping. God, I
yeah.
hate flipping. So wholesaling, we still got our wholesaling going. We still have our title company. We shut down our brokerage, but we're all over at Real, so it's an MLM, right? So we're recruiting right now indirectly, but I might turn it on where we're going to be recruiting directly. We're doing Whale Club, but I think the key here is that everything I'm doing, I'm not involved. I'm not
Right.
doing any of that work, right? The only things that require my time today, there's 3 things that require my time: creating content, fulfilling the sales that we've sold, right? So, doing the sales training, this and that, and meetings. That's it. Those are the 3 things I do all week. So I'm not doing anything except for coaching, creating content, or leading the other leaders within our organization.
I like it. And so why'd you choose sales specifically? Was that because not many people are specifically focusing on that? Because I don't know actually many people where that's what we do in the real estate space.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got decent at sales and people started asking me to help them with sales, I was generally aware that John Martinez was out there, but I didn't realize how big he was, right? And so I was like, okay, I've got this entire blue ocean. Well, it turns out I wasn't entirely blue because John actually had a pretty good influence. And now we've got more people joining that pond, right? Which is fine. But for us, because we've been able to do it for so long and we're known for it, and no one else really seems to be as big of a sales nerd as I am, that's the reason why. We have a competitive advantage in that we're already known for it. We already have influence. We already have reach. And I'm passionate about it. And I'm passionate about it because I sucked at it. So because I suck so bad at it, I'm really passionate about it.
Talk about that for a second. I think I've heard you talk about this before,
Mhm.
that you actually aren't a natural salesperson, right? Actually,
No,
it didn't come to you. It didn't come to you at all. So
no.
So that's a really interesting thing, because I've gotten to the point, and maybe this is just my own limiting mindset and maybe it's just my laziness, but I've gotten to the point when I hire salespeople, I need them to have experience. I need to know that they closed before, right? I've gotten to the point where I'm not training you up from zero anymore, right? For me, it's just not worth it. But how did you train yourself up, and how did you switch over from what naturally is your personality into a salesperson?
You read the books, and the books are great. The books tell you the what, the how, the why. What the books don't do is the tone, the tonality, how you say whatever it is you're trying to say. And so the first, started in 2018. So the first 12 years of my career, I was using what I learned from the books. And let me just take a step back. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering. Nothing about electrical engineering screams sales, right?
Right.
So I was a terrible salesperson because our natural selling style is how we buy. And you guys know engineers are the worst people to work with. And so I would overeducate, overinform, and would go nowhere. And so I learned the books, I learned the scripts, the techniques, the tactics, and this and that. And then one day where I'm talking to Pace, send me your deals, right? Because I had a brokerage. He was my general contractor, right? He did one of my flips for me. I was like, Pace, you're a home investor guy. I'm a brokerage guy. I want to wholesale more. You're buying deals. Send me your freaking deals. And he's like, I can't. I was like, why not? Because I said, send them to Jamil. I was like, well, send them to me too. And he kept resisting me, right? But I kept persisting. I kept asking. And he's like, well, Steve, if you want to buy more deals from home investor guys, just hang out where all the home investor guys are. Right? We hang out every Friday. I was like, there's a place where all the home investor guys hang out. Really? And so, yeah, sign me up. So I went there and I hung out with the home investor guys. And there's a Sandler guy. And that Sandler guy is teaching sales. And I was like, wow, this guy's really good. And so I studied side by side, right? I was in his classroom 2 hours every Tuesday, 90 minutes every Wednesday, 90 minutes every Friday for years, just absorbing everything he had to share. And that took me from a below average salesperson to who I am today, which I think I'm a pretty excellent salesperson.
I love it. I love that you overcame what you naturally were in order to become that, because I feel like people don't think that a lot of times. I think they're sticking like, I'll be honest, most of the advice I give to people is based on their personality. They're an integrator, and you're not an integrator. The thing is, you're also not an integrator, I feel. So I feel like maybe
I could be whoever the team needs me to be.
Gotcha.
Right. So I had the broker that mentored me. If he was a better leader, I would have been totally fine being number two. I don't have to be number one. I actually prefer to be behind the scenes. I actually prefer not to be in front of a camera. But being in front of a camera, like I said, create content earlier, right? Creating content is my number one revenue generating activity. So I'm in front of a camera all the time because that's what drives revenue. Not my preference, but getting outside my comfort zone.
Interesting. So then I'm curious, when people come to you for sales training and all of that, what do you feel is the most common problem that they're coming with you to? I'm just genuinely curious, because I'm sort of a sales coach in the sense I'm the sales coach to my act managers, right? But I've gotten to the point where I just try to hire killers, people who just, I can train you, but you also already kind of get it. You naturally sort of have that salesy personality. For those people who come to you and are engineers, or people who just aren't salesy whatsoever, what do you do with them? Or what's the general process of getting them? Is it just reading the books? Is it working on their tonality? I know that you talked about those things.
So before I answer that question, I just want to say a couple different things. First, because you said, after they come to me, here's the biggest problem. Most salespeople don't come to me, right? So we just had Closers Olympics. There were some closers that aren't really closers, right? So most salespeople don't think they need sales training. And that's the biggest problem, right? And so you go back to your people that you just mentioned, you hire people that have sales experience. The biggest challenge of people that are naturally gifted at sales is they're less coachable. they're less willing to follow a process. And because they're unwilling to follow a process or less likely to follow a process, they're probably losing sales that are actually closable. There was a great quote I read a couple of months ago from Eric Brewer. Introverts are better at closing consistently. Extroverts can close extraordinarily well inconsistently, right? So would you rather have an
Interesting.
introvert that closes consistently, where you can rely on 3 to 5 deals a month, or an extrovert that closes 9 deals, 0 deals, 8 deals, 1 deal, right? So just something to take into perspective. Now, going back to your question, what do we generally work on? We generally work on process. So the very first thing we got to do is we got to wipe your brain, right? Everything you believe you know about sales, let's just throw that out the window. That's step one. Step two, I'm selling them on the idea that they need a sales process. And I'm going to explain why you need a sales process. And then after we explain why they need a sales process, now we're going to talk about what that process looks like. So the biggest problem I think most salespeople run into is they fail to set the proper expectations. If you look at every situation where you look back and you were upset, you were disappointed or frustrated, what happened? Well, you expected one thing and you got something else, right? That's generally the source of most frustration. Well, generally, when you go over to someone's house or you call someone to buy their home, what's their expectation? Usually, it's why don't you tell me what my house is worth? What are you willing to offer me? And if I like your offer, I'll call you back. What are our expectations? We want to get a signed freaking contract today. And so, what do we have to do before we even start off the call? We've got to reset the homeowner's expectations. Let me share with you. Can I share with you how these meetings generally go? Take a step further. The lead manager, whoever is inside your organization setting the appointments. Hey, Jonah, when you talk with Steve tomorrow, if you can agree on price and everything else that's important to you, would you feel comfortable committing to working with us? We're setting the expectation before the call. So now when we have the call, you're prepared to do business with me, right? So I think the biggest thing for most salespeople when they start working with us that don't have a system is A, they don't realize how important a process is, and then B, setting the proper expectations for the call.
I love that. That was good. Your tonality immediately changed, even when you were just switching over to the setting of the expectations. You slowed down a little bit, right?
You have
Which I
to.
really liked. So, do you only do it for real estate direct to seller model? Or do you do it for any business model whatsoever? I'm just curious.
So me personally, I'm only doing real estate. But you look at my handle here, salesdisruptors.com. That's our sales community. And in there, it's industry agnostic, right? We don't care if you're in solar, roofing, high ticket closes, whatever. That's our general sales community.
Right. So that was an interesting quote. I've never heard that quote before. So you're opening up my mind to the possibilities, and I'm very curious about it. I've never heard the quote, extroverts close insanely well, but inconsistently, but introverts close well, but consistently. Honestly, every time, and I'll be honest, it's probably just because I don't know how to do it. Anytime I ever hire an introvert, they get no sales ever. That's what happens.
Yeah, well, they
So
might not have a process. So you think about it, right? Most people think extroverts are great salespeople. And I think that's a horrific fallacy. I think that's a giant myth. The reason why extroverts get so many sales is because they talk to more people, right? That's Brent Daniels' thing, TTP, talk to people. Extroverts are basically giant billboards walking around. They're flapping their mouths and they're telling everyone that I buy houses, right? If every person you talk to, Jonah, in a given day, you told them you buy houses, how many houses you buy a month? A decent amount, right? You would get a shockingly a number of houses to buy every single month. So extroverts are really good about talking about themselves and what they do. Introverts are really good at listening. And listening is what it takes to really buy houses. Because if you're going to buy someone's house, you've got to understand the other person at a deep level. You know, you've got to validate who they are, that you got to empathetically see what they're dealing with from their perspective. The examples I've used is a game of Battleship, right? if you and I are playing Battleship and there's a mirror on your side, I should win because
Right.
I know what your ship looks like. I know what your board looks like because I know what your board looks like. Now, when I fire my shots, I'm hitting every single time. So if I can understand your world, I can see your board, I'm gonna have a really good shot of buying your house. So that doesn't happen generally, like typically, if you're an extrovert. Now you can also train on this, but if you're an introvert, you're more naturally gifted at listening. You've got less talk inside your head, right? When they start talking about how their kids grew up here, you'll listen about how their kids grew up here. But if you're an extrovert, you might start thinking about what's my next question? What's the next thing I have to say? Man, someone called me earlier. What was that about? Right? Like your mind starts wandering. And it's no fault of your own. It's just extroverts have more self-talk where introverts can be more present and listen to the other person.
That's so interesting. So, what would you recommend to a business owner generally? Would it literally be hiring introverts and then training them on a specific sales process? Is that how you would do it? Or what do you look for in a salesperson if you're the business owner? How you
So
hire
I am looking for drivers. I don't really care as much about the extroversion or introversion, right? If it's a little social, if it's a little antisocial or reserved, I'm fine either way. What I'm really looking for is someone that's independent, right? So there's got some D according to this profile. I think that's really probably the most important thing. And then the willingness to follow a process. So the coachability, the humility, the desire to get better trumps everything else. So I am looking for someone that's higher on the A, and I'm sorry, that's D on the disc. So someone that's a little bit higher on the D and lower on the S, generally speaking. But all in all, I'm more interested in your track record and your coachability. Coachability trumps everything else.
So, coachability. How would you see for that in an interview? How would you know that somebody's coachable or not coachable in an interview?
Well, so I'm going to give you a script in our interview. I'm going to ask you to try to buy my house. And you're
Hmm.
going to screw it up, right? You're not in the industry. You're going to screw it up. And that's okay. Hey, Jonah, how do you feel you did? Okay, here's what I saw. And I'm going to tell you all those things. All right,
Mhm.
did you understand it? Okay, great. Let's do it again.
How quickly do they get it? How quickly
How-
do they get this
mhm.
script?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
We had, again, Close Olympics this weekend. There was one person who got really butthurt, right,
really
by my judging, right? Well, guess who's never eligible? Not that they would, but guess who's never can be eligible for hire in our organization,
right
right?
because
If you take feedback critically, well, good luck to you.
it's because they have too much ego, is what you mean. They have so much ego on their sales skills that at that point they're just not going to listen at all, right?
Yeah, right. The best way to know that someone is doomed to never get better is someone that knows that they know everything.
I got a lot. That makes sense. I mean, definitely makes sense a lot. That what's the point of hiring you if you're not going to learn from me? You might as well just
Yeah,
go do it. If you know how to do it, why are you working for me,
right.
right?
Yeah,
So
how has that served you up until this point in life?
right, exactly. So that totally makes sense. So, real quick, we're heading to the end of the interview, but I want you
Mhm.
to clarify real quick for people who don't know the disc profile
Yeah,
what D actually means, what S actually means, what you
sure.
talked about
Yeah.
actually means.
So D is driver. This is someone that's super competitive, wants to win, talks kind of loud. The prototypical D is Donald Trump. There's no better
Right.
example of a D than Donald Trump. I is someone that is influential. They're people. They love people. They're tend to be funny. They're gonna again talk a lot, late to everything. So that's an I, and the prototypical I is Robin Williams and Kevin Hart. Right? They're
Hmm.
so expressive. They're gonna be, they're typically realtors or bartenders, servers, that kind of deal. You get your S's. These are your stable profiles. These are people that are supportive. They are generally administrative or nurses or teachers, but they like stability. And then you got the C's. These are your conscientious. These are the people that are compliant. They follow rules. They're analytical. These are gonna be your engineers, accountants, scientists, mathematicians, they need to see numbers, right? If you tell them how, hey, we should do it because this feels right, they will lose their mind, right? It has to make logical sense. So the C, again, is conscientious, compliant. S's are stable. I's are influential. And D's are dominant.
Gotcha. Cool. Cool. And then this is a question. This is a personal question because one day I know I am going to be a guest on the Real Estate Disruptors. It's going to happen at some point, right?
Let's do it.
What I do want to know is what is the criteria to be a guest, right? I know you obviously don't let anyone get on.
Mhm.
What do you look for in your guest, and what's the process of actually getting on the podcast?
So the process is sending me a message on Instagram. But what we're looking
Okay.
for, because that's how we get a lot of people that are interested. What we're looking for is someone that has a story to share and someone that is doing deals, right? Whether it's $250,000 in wholesale fees in a quarter or $1 million in wholesale fees in a year. If you're flipping, it's got to be gross profits, right? Because it's really easy to do 250,000. That's just one house.
Right, exactly.
So it's got to be gross profits, or you own some number of doors, or you're doing something innovative, right? We have people that come on the show that are service providers, but they're doing something different, right? They're more innovative. They're leading edge of technology. So that's generally what we're looking for. Someone that can someone that can help and inspire other people because they're doing it. And, we were talking about this earlier in part of disruption. They're not frauds, right? They're not talking about something that they're not doing. We are not here to help you build a platform for the sake of building a platform. We're here to help you tell your story in the service of other people.
I love it. All right, I'm sending you an IG DM about that because I'm very close to hitting $1 million in wholesale in the year, and I've hit 250K in a quarter. So we're gonna talk because I definitely want to make that happen. My last question before the end of this is how I always end it: is if you could go back to Steve Trang, right when he was starting in real estate, what would you say to him then, knowing everything that you know now?
Get your head out of your ass and buy real estate. I mean, look, my biggest regret in my career is that I didn't buy real estate in the crash. And in 2009, I was a realtor. I was terrible. I was a terrible realtor, right? I was losing money and I was broke. Broke as a joke, literally. My team, the Cardinals, were on the way to the Super Bowl and I couldn't afford to go to the games, right? So for me, I was ignorant because I didn't understand how money worked. So I go to these Real Estate Investor Association events, right? ASRIA is the one that's in Arizona. And there is these service providers charging 18% hard money. And I was talking to my mentor. I was like, 18%? This is ridiculous. That's credit card rates. Why would anyone pay 18%? Man, if I bought everything I could in Phoenix in 2009 at 18% interest, I would have been cash flowing from day one, right? You buy a house for $40,000 at 18% interest, but you can rent it out for $750. You're cash flowing from day one. I could have just bought the entire city with hard money, knowing what I know today. So for me, if I go back to me when I started back then, get your head out of your ass, go buy everything. Today, what would I say? Create content. Get in front of a camera. Turn on the camera. Talk about your life. Talk about your journey because it opens crazy doors that otherwise you can't open.
Love it, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you again for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. I'm going to IG DM you about getting on the podcast now, and I'll send you P&Ls or whatever the hell you guys need for that.
Sounds great to me.
That's been a goal of mine for a long time. I was like, man, I'm going to get on this podcast eventually. It's gonna freaking happen. So I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on my podcast, taking the time out, guys. So one last thing. What do you want me to plug? What sales training, the Real Estate Disruptors?
Salesdisruptors.com. Salesdisruptors.com. That's our sales community. We've got over 100 people in there now. And our intent is to get to, what was the number? 500 by the beginning of December. So if you can help me plug that, I would love to help a lot of people be more profitable. Because here's the great thing about sales, right? For $97 a month, you're going to learn sales from our organization. Here's the thing I love about sales. You don't need to spend any more money on marketing. All you gotta do is just close the leads you've got, and you instantly become more profitable. Close if you can book 10% more appointments, you can sign 10% more contracts and improve your margin by 10%. That's more than a 30% improvement on your top line. You agree with that?
100%.
Right? So if you can increase your top line by more than 30%, but your expenses are the same, you're probably growing your profits by 60 to 100%. There's no better lever getting good at sales. So I would say salesdisruptors.com. You can learn everything you need to learn about sales from us for $97 a month.
I love it. Awesome, guys. Go to salesdisruptors.com, sign up, especially if you're an introvert, doesn't matter. It's if you suck at sales, doesn't matter. Go there, learn sales from the best. Guys, if we had more time, I would have talked about it, the importance of mentorship. It's changed my life. I know it's changed Steve's life a lot. So, guys, go there. I appreciate you, Steve. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, next week, again, Thursday, ST, we'll be back doing our thing, Skorch the Fears. Do you have any last words, Steve?
I'll say the same thing I'll end most of these with is that, we live in the greatest country there's ever lived. There's the greatest time to be alive. Go get what's yours because why not you?
Hell yeah. I love it. That's Skorch the Fears. Let's freaking go.